La 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 la. Screen peeking. Bop bop bop.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 32 of Screen Peeking, a weekly podcast where Ziggy and I get together to talk about video games and everything video game related. Today we are going to be talking about many things like our Narita Boy impressions, talking about how the next Battlefield might come to Game Pass day one, possible Kojima deal with Xbox, and more. So let's just start today by talking about what we've been playing this week, and as usual, and telling us, Zig, how have you been doing? What have you been playing?
Nick, I'm feeling great.
Ooh, listen to that voice.
As many people know, March 31st, our hero Super Mario tragically died. But in the wake of his passing, we've been given a gift, Nick, and that is Pac-Man 99. Mario is dead. Long live Pac-Man, baby. I love this weird fucking genre that Nintendo has invented of just what can we
title
possibly
number.
Shove? Yeah, just title and then 99. Just shoving random games. It doesn't necessarily work all the time. Tetris 99 I think was the best still. But every time these get announced, now that it feels like a franchise now. Whereas before it was a one-off, and then with Mario it was, I didn't really know what to think, but then now that there's three, I'm solidly in the boat of all right, this is cool. I played in a few matches. I like Pac-Man enough. I'm not nearly as into it as I am Tetris, so I kind of bounced off of it. It just wasn't as interesting to me. Not as competitive either, in my opinion, but I'm playing, I'm thinking what's next of these classic, 90s games that we're just going to kind of jam into a battle royale formula, even if it doesn't work that great. Just how is it even possible to make this competitive Pac-Man is funny to me in general, but especially with 99 other players. It's just weird. And yeah, I mean, I heard some people talking about Galaga 99. I think that would be really fun. And I'm already thinking of how that could work, with defeating enemies and sending enemies to the other side. Centipede 99 could be good.
Yep.
I'm thinking of a lot of Namco games, really, to be honest. Now that we've officially gone outside of
old games.
Yeah, but I like it, man. I think it's great. It's good. That's all I have to say.
I just want a Zelda 69. I don't know what that would look like, but I'm just waiting for
it. Just clip that, take it out of context, post it somewhere.
Oh,
it'll be great.
Good point.
Anyways, so also that was pretty nice on sync there. But I've been still playing It Takes Two, which. Man, I talked a little bit about how that game gets pretty dark. Didn't expect the places it would go. I think this game, if I had played it when I was 10, I would have been, I think, genuinely traumatized from it.
Maybe that's what they were talking about last week when I was asking you if it went places, and you're like, yeah, not really, not yet.
Yeah. It, not in terms of innuendo, but something happens that is just so fucked up. And I was playing this game, I've been playing with my friend, also playing it with Tesla, and they were just sobbing from that scene. I thought it was funny, but also in the kind of funny, and they just hated it. It almost turned it off in the game in general. It goes places. And then after that, it definitely lightens up. It gets more into the part where they start to fall in love again, and I've been appreciating that, kind of lifting up from the fucked up stuff that was going on before into something more just pleasant. But yeah, that's fun. I've been playing more Dusk, which I brought that up because I kind of was playing it every so often, but now I've finally gotten to the part where I feel like it's gone above just yeah, it's all right, into oh shit, now I see why people rave about this game so much, where I think it's just the levels. So many levels in here are just batshit insane, and in terms of layouts and enemy placement and stuff, but also just it can go from kind of a basic, like mineshaft level or like farmhouse level, like it was sort of in the first episode. But now I'm at the place where I was in like a secret government lab, and then suddenly like a portal opened to another fucking dimension, and it was like the void of space, and I was like fighting like a boss in there.
Right.
Or that like I walked through a portal and suddenly I'm in just like a rib cage of some like eldritch fucking beast that's like dead now, and it's like it's crazy things happening. It's like genuinely really scary at times too, which I like it leans pretty heavily into those horror elements, and that's really cool. But yeah, I definitely starting to get why people think it's amazing now. I've been playing some Valorant, which I don't like. I do not like that game at all.
If you said you did like it, I was going to ask you like what it is that pulls you in, because I wanted to like that game.
Yeah, I mean, I like hero-based shooters, and I played it before. Like, I wasn't super interested in it just because I didn't like League. And so, like, I just don't like the style of esports that Riot really makes, to be honest. It's just not my thing. But my friend was playing it, like, Owen was playing it, and he wanted me to play with him, so I'm like, fuck, whatever, it's free, I'll download it. And didn't really like it then, and I don't think he did either, so we sort of bounced off. But I've been playing it with like him and a couple other people recently, and have finally discovered the fun in the game, which is not the game itself, because the game itself, I just don't like most of the design choices it makes. Like, the gunplay isn't fun, the movement feels too slow. Like, I get what they're trying to do with the whole tactical thing, but at the end of the day, if I put my cursor over someone's head and click, and it doesn't hit their head, like, I don't really understand why that's a choice.
That's just
like, it
skill,
just feels
Zig.
so, yeah, it just feels so dumb and random to me. But but the fun part is the fact that, well, it's a blessing and a curse, because this game's community, one of the worst I've seen. I think it is horrible. Like,
I find that with most Riot games, if not all.
Yeah. It like, there's toxicity, but also just like everybody I match with is just like horribly misogynistic. So like, one of the people in our group has been Owen's girlfriend, Blythe, and the fun that we found in it, because it's teams of 5, so there's 4 of us and 1 other person, is we'll generally start like talking on voice comms and kind of bait them into saying something like horrible and misogynistic, and then just if they do fall for that trap, just start absolutely blasting them, or either on that, or just like,
Doesn't that just contribute to the problem?
It's fun though, that's the thing. And maybe this is like
that doesn't mean
it's
right.
This great thing where, or not even blasting them, just like they'll say something like, I don't know, just using horrible language that I won't repeat here, but like, and then I think one of them just kept on being like, hey, do you want to go on a date sometime, man? I think you're cute, the whole time in the chat. And then he'd just be getting like more and more upset, and eventually like leave or something. We'd all just be like dying laughing. I don't know. That's the most fun I've had in that game. Also, there's one mode that's less competitive that I find fun to some degree, but yeah, I don't know. Valorant's take it or leave it. I've been playing more than I probably should, given that I don't like it, but whatever. And then Narita Boy, which we'll talk about in a sec.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just keep looking down because my cat's clawing the heck out of my knee right now. Kill me. But yeah, I've just been playing Witcher 3. That's it. With any bit of time I have had.
How deep in it are you?
I don't even know. I really like it, but I'm not really focusing on the story right now. And like, by that I mean I'm just not doing story objectives right now. I'm paying attention, I'm not skipping dialogue because I want to know what's going on. But right now, just like I said last week, I just really enjoy the exploration in the game. Right, like when you look at the map, there's a lot of white question marks, kind of like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or something like that, even though that came out after. But I like to go to those and see what they are, whether it's hidden loot, or it's a monster protecting a chest of loot, or it's a bandit camp, or it's something else. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things it could be. And sometimes the enemies are too strong, so you have to come back later. But I like to like uncover what that question mark actually is, so I know what I want to, if it's something I want to do there. I'm finding that the thing I like to do in the game right now is purely just upgrading what I have. So there's recipes for right now. I'm working on this set of Griffin armor, and I needed to be level 11 to wear it. When I'm level 16, I think right now. And the next level in this set, I had to find the recipes to be able to craft the enhanced version of the gloves, the enhanced version of the chest and legs and whatever. And to wear those, though, you have to be level 18. So that's where it like kind of comes down to, if you explore a ton, you'll find the recipes for these better versions of what you have, or even say an oil that you coat your sword in. The base version of this beast oil that makes your sword do 10% more damage to beasts. That's the base version, and it gives you like 20 charges, so you can hit an enemy 20 times and you get 10% more damage. Then you upgrade this oil. Eventually you find a recipe, and then you have to find all the materials to upgrade it, and you only have to craft it once, and then you just have it, and then it maybe does 25% more damage. So it's little things like that that just reward exploration without you actually trying to. I'm not going after a specific recipe. I'm just going, looking at my map, seeing a question mark, or areas that you haven't even been to. You'll just see spots on the map where you go, that's a bunch of buildings. I wonder what's in that area. It's just map. Like there's no icons or anything. You're just like, that's definitely buildings, or that rock is shaped this way. That's kind of cool. I'm going to go check that out. So then you travel there on your horse and you get over there, and then maybe there's a creature you can kill, or there's some cool loot to collect, and you find out you got some recipes for stuff. Like, that's cool. I'm going to just check to see if I have the materials, and if you don't, then you're hunting for a creature suit until you find its liver, and then you can make that potion or that oil. So I don't know. I'm finding that stuff really fun in the game. Not so much the story stuff right now. I really have a hard time not skipping through when it's the story stuff, because some of those cutscenes and the amount of content, like, it'll go on for quite a while, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm just like, I don't want to sit here doing nothing for that long personally, but I do it, and it's fine. I will say, like, the side missions that I just happen upon, like, I've been trying. There are options in the menu, by the way, to turn off the icons on your mini map. You can either turn off. That's
kind of nice.
You can turn off the ones that you have not discovered, or the ones that you have discovered, or both, and that's really cool. I've left them on just because I like to know where I've been, but I'm not really focusing on it. I'm just going where I think it looks interesting on the horizon, and I found just running into random encounters has been a lot of fun. I will summarize real quick. Just one little side mission or a little side quest that I found. I was walking by this lady's house, and she had some chickens out front. She was all upset that her chickens have been going missing, and she said it's a beast that's been killing her or taking her chickens. So I used my Witcher senses. I followed these wolf tracks to 3 children nearby, and they have a little camp. And they're telling me how they've been stealing chickens because they're living on their own. So I ask them, I have options of what I can say, right? And so I asked them, like, where their parents are. Apparently their parents have been taken by, like, the soldiers, like, that kind of, like, run the area. And so now the kids are living on their own, and they're just trying to survive. So it's like, oh, okay, that sucks, you know? And then they tell Geralt, and they're like, we're gonna wear animal skin, like, we're excited, we're gonna go live in the woods, and we're gonna wear animal skins, we're going to sew leaves into tents, and we're never going to grow up. And then Geralt, without me being able to choose, Geralt's just like, yeah, the last one's most likely. It is very monotone, not saying anything, and I'm like, that's hilarious. I love that. So then you get a choice after to get the old lady. You can convince her to take the kids in and take care of them, or you can warn her that the kids are going to come back. So I warned her that the kids are going to come back, and she's like, I'll have a stick ready. I'm going to smack the crap out of them or whatever. So that was awesome. But yeah, that's just one of the random things that happened that I was, happened to be going by, and I'm just having a lot of fun with that, right? You just have no expectations. You're just purely going to go find some monsters and kill them and get paid. That's what the game's about, in my opinion, and I'm having a fun time with it. And then, of course, Narita Boy.
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So I didn't give this game a ton of time. Played maybe half hour at most. And I'm going to just switch over to the recording right now. There we go. So I just have some gameplay in the background here of just like me at the very beginning of the game trying to figure out what the heck I was supposed to do. A few notes on this game that I have is I'm just not in the mood for this type of game right now. It actually hits a lot of notes that I normally would like. Like for example, I have found the art style nice. I don't find I think I might either be getting tired of it, or I'm just like not finding the art style and the music like significant in any way. But I enjoyed it. I didn't find it bad or anything like that.
Yeah.
I found for the controls though, I don't have it happening here, but I found the controls the jump really floaty to the point where it's really, really hard to land on small platforms. Like there is a clip later on, and maybe I'll find it. But like there's a clip where I am trying to, here it is, where I try to make this jump here and I miss it like a million times in a row, and I'm trying, like I'm pulling back on the stick trying to make this jump, and I keep going right off the edge. Like, what is happening? I'm like, okay, I got it, here we go, I did it. Anyways, it was bad, and then I missed the next one. So what I realized is like you go forward way more than you go back. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't work. So yeah, there's things I like about it, but for sure, but it didn't capture me right now, and I just had such a hard time enjoying playing it at the moment. And I think the jumping definitely was a challenge. I think the combat, from my limited playing with it, which was like, I have the dodge, I have the shotgun, you can shoot the gun, or you can, if you have 3 of the charged up bars that you can kind of see, there's like the 3 little orange bars or whatever. Yeah, I don't know, I sucked at this game, but that's not why I didn't like it. I definitely was just not in the mood for it right now. It gave me a lot of what's the name of the game vibes. I'm trying to remember. It's one I really like. It's gonna haunt me this whole episode. There's a certain game that has this pixely art style, very interesting to look at. We've talked about it before. I was saying like everything.
Zero?
No, everything I see though, I find interesting and I want to look at for a long time. I was saying. There's another game by the developer coming out somewhat soon. And I didn't like it, but you thought it looked, or I didn't think it looked neat, but you thought it looked cool. That's good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what that might be.
It's bothering me. Anyways, it gives me. That's gonna suck. I can't give up on what this game is. But I'll try to pull it up on the side here while I'm talking. But basically, one thing I just wanted to say about this is. I don't find the story stuff to be engaging enough to where like there's a lot of dialogue, and I just didn't think it needed that much. I found the amount of story and the amount of like dialogue you have to go through to play the game, I felt was just too much, and I don't feel like it needs to be. I feel like a lot of it could be more visual storytelling, because I found it very interesting to look at. Still, I found things interesting, but like Katana Zero, for example, does it very good. And like I feel like it keeps the pacing really well, where you have your little slow moments, but it's not too long, and then you're right back into the action. You're doing your thing. Yeah. So I don't know. What did you think of the game? I'm gonna see if I can find out what this other game is that I'm trying to compare it to.
Yeah, cut me off when you do find it, or if you do find it. I was really, really wanting to like this game more than I did, because I really did like how this game looks, and I agree I am kind of tired of this art style, but I think that the game does that look and art style better than like most, if not
it's good.
Yeah, definitely most games that do this. It like the way it does those CRT filters and all that, it just looks really, really buttery and smooth. And just like the design of the world really, really drew me in too, with like one of the clips you were showing before of like all this sort of like cyber religious imagery with like these like priests and stuff everywhere, and like these big statues. Like I thought all that was really interesting. But I totally, looking at this, great example of the game just doesn't play very well. Like the jumping, like you said, really threw me off as well. The combat is fine. like it's serviceable, but it's also just kind of like floaty and not terribly engaging. But the story, I think, is where I really got lost, where I agree, there was just so many words, and I like my eyes were just glazing over so much in this game.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that there was too much story. I think it just drops you in and doesn't do a good job of easing you into the story or properly explaining certain things, where it just sort of drops you into the world and then just dumps like 2 truckloads of exposition onto you, and to the point where I didn't understand anything that was happening. Like, it was talking about like the creator and this guy, and there's all these beams, and this is important because of this, and this is also important, but we're just gonna glaze over that for now. And I don't know who this guy is, but apparently I don't like him, and this guy's talking to me, and I am supposed to like them, but I don't really know why, or like, you know, it's like it just didn't do anything to actually like properly expose me to the world. Like, it probably would make sense in the mind of the person who wrote it, but for me, it just felt like nonsense a little bit, to be honest.
I think,
because I don't know, it just kept on throwing around words that I didn't understand, like the proper nouns in the game that I have no context behind, and doesn't do enough to give me context, or like I don't know. It should have eased that in, where like, show me the world, give me one thing at a time. Like, don't just dump it all on me. Like, let me get interested in the visuals and then slowly start explaining what it means, instead of just like with this motherboard character who just dumps like paragraph after paragraph of dialogue that I didn't really understand, so it was hard to really get engaged in. That was the big frustration for me. And again, like, story is only one aspect of games, but there's just so much story that it felt really hard to progress in this game, because I felt like I was just, my eyes glazing over, like, and eventually got to the point where I just didn't understand it all. So I'm like, hey, I don't want to sit through this dialogue. I don't understand. So I was just skipping it, which only made my comprehension worse. And yeah, ended up where I was.
Yeah, I find like there's I think that whatever's happening on the screen needs to be also interesting if you're having to read what's going on. I think that like sometimes, or for example, the very beginning, and I don't have a clip of it, but the beginning, when you have like the creator or whatever it is, like the guy like sitting at the computer making the code and stuff's happening, I'm like, ooh, what's going on? I was actually engaged for that because something was like happening. And then you start, like, if there was like dialogue on that, I would be reading it because I'd be like, oh, this just happened, what's going on? But then to like enter a room here and just press B and talk to a person, they're like, oh, this is this thing, and they're just talking, and I find that's less interesting. And I feel like you could possibly, I mean, I'm basing this off of like half an hour, so don't worry, people, I know where I stand here on, like, I can't judge it too hard. But yeah, I definitely was like, my eyes were glazing over, like you said, and I found out what the game is I was comparing this to visually, and that was Hyper Light Drifter.
Oh,
that's the one. I kept thinking Dead Cells, but I kept thinking the title Dead Cells, but I knew it wasn't Dead Cells I was thinking of. And Hyper Light Drifter is another game that, like, totally art style wise and like visually, I was like super in on that, and I really had a good time. But I found like combat for that was more enjoyable, and the movement and everything felt a lot better than this.
It also, the absolute biggest difference is that Hyper Light Drifter, 0 dialogue, but I found Hyper Light Drifter's story way more engaging than anything in here, because it just, like, there's that opening cinematic where you see stuff happening and you see like these massive titans and all this like crazy surreal imagery.
That visual storytelling is incredible.
You don't need to tell me what any of that is. You just need to show me and I'm interested. Yeah. The moment you start throwing around names and things and just like dumping that all on me, like if Hyper Light Drifter did that to me, I probably would have bounced off of it too, to be honest. But because it was there and I kept on exploring just because I wanted to see what that meant and see what all that was, and there's that intrigue with it. But I think this game just doesn't really know how to keep its mouth shut and let you experience it from what I played, which is unfortunate because it is a really cool world. I think there's a lot of really, really cool ideas in here. I think it's just presented so poorly within the writing.
Yeah, or like even just a thought I had right now was I found a lot at the beginning. There's so many people you can talk to. And you don't have to talk to most of them, but you don't know that at the beginning. So you're talking to everybody, listening to all this information. And you're just like having it all like dumped in your face. And you're like, holy cow, I need to, digest this and really think about what's going on. But some games, for example, they'll have a library or they'll have a spot with like books where you can read about the history of these things. Or I don't know, just if they had a place where you could go to learn about the world, or a place you could go to learn about things, or characters you talk to, but it's after your first half hour. Maybe you just have a character's K. Now you talk to this person. We need you to go find the sword. Great, I will go find the sword. Let's find out about that. And then maybe you get the sword, and then there's a person who tells you about the history of the sword, and they're going to teach you how to use the sword, or something like that. Like where something like that would kind of engage me more than just I'm trying to find the sword. I don't know who I need to talk to or what I need to activate, so I'm just pressing B or up on the left stick on everything, just trying to find my way to this sword. So.
Yeah, and I think like what you were saying earlier is like about having a library or something like that. I think just like the first 5-10 minutes of like lore and exposition that it gave me could have been stretched across 2 hours. and I probably still would have felt like I was having information overload a little bit, but I think it would have been paced so much better where like I think if all that was shown to me over 2 hours, where initially it's just like go find the sword. What is the sword? You don't need to know. Why do you need it? You don't need to know. Like you're in here, just find it. That's a simple objective. As you go, you learn different things. Who is the creator? Who is this bad guy? Like these different things, and show them to me. Don't just tell them to me, and spread that out. Like don't just make it so front loaded. And I could definitely see this game if I was giving it more of a chance, like 5-6 hours in. I don't know how long it actually is, but later in where it's kind of out of exposition to give. I could see it becoming a little bit more enjoyable where there is just I understand what's happening and it's not dumping stuff on me every 2 seconds. Like I definitely think that'd be more enjoyable, but at the end of the day also just jumping and attacking doesn't feel very good, so it's hard to say. But it's really unfortunate to me because like I said, I wanted to love this game. Like looking at this trailer, the visuals are really incredible, and like the music and the imagery in it is just so cool, but it's just unfortunate it didn't stick the landing at all to me.
I agree. Like I'm still looking forward to going back to what was the game we played last week? It was I'm terrible with memory now. Just too much in this noggin. Genesis Noir. If I'm going to put any more extra time into something that's not The Witcher 3, like I want to go back and continue that. I still do, and especially after you told me before that it gets better after where I'm at. So I'm excited to play that more. But yeah, Narita Boy, I'm not going to go back. At least not anytime soon. I could see it being something I download again on an off day, and that's kind of the benefit of Game Pass is I could download it and maybe I fall in love with it in a year from now. If it's still on.
True. Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Let's move on though. This next story here, it's not a story really. It's more of I wanted to talk about, because I don't know where I read about this, next Battlefield game possibly coming to Game Pass day one. I wanted to talk about, just let's say this was true, okay? We don't have to talk about this like this is some big deal, Zig, but I was thinking because of how Battlefield and Call of Duty, they kind of go head to head, right? Although Call of Duty kind of stomps it out all the time. Do you think Battlefield coming to Game Pass day one, do you think it's realistic? Do you think it's needed to be on Game? Like, do you think EA needs it to be on Game Pass to be relevant now? Because it's kind of shat the bed with the last one, and even their Battle Royale didn't catch fire, even though it was a Ring of Fire in that mode. And what do you think it would mean for them to put that out on Game Pass? Do you think that would potentially open up like a lot more deals happening if, say, they put it out on Game Pass and it's successful? Like, I kind of interested in your thoughts on that, and I'll give mine after. But
yeah, I mean, do they need Game Pass? No, not really, to be honest. I think, or at least not Game Pass on day one. I don't think that's necessary for them. Like Battlefield, despite the fact that 5 was pretty mixed amongst Battlefield fans, I think Battlefield is still like a huge franchise that has like that name recognition, and it has the marketing budget of EA. Like I think as long as the game is good and isn't in World War II, to be honest, like I think it doesn't need Game Pass per se, at least on day one. I think where Game Pass really shines for games like this is on year two, say, or even like 6 months in, where that initial launch player base is starting to die down. It's takes a little longer to get into a lobby, but then that Game Pass boost, it suddenly does give it a massive surge of popularity, which is generally healthy for games like this. But at the same time, it is EA, and EA Play is in Game Pass, so like it coming to Game Pass One, I think is very likely. Like, and I don't think that doesn't really like blow me away per se. But yeah, I don't really think it needs it, but it'd be cool. I wouldn't play it otherwise, but if it is on Game Pass, like I liked Battlefield 1, so I might play it for a couple hours or something.
Yeah, I think that it is needed. If I go to just like what I personally think, I think that Battlefield isn't a strong IP anymore. I think that it's been going downhill consistently, and I think it got really hit with the last one. I was trying to pull up like actual, factual information here, but I do remember there were being controversy about like all kinds of stuff when that game was coming out, and just a lot of the game directors or people working on the game saying stuff that maybe they could have held back, and I just don't remember exactly what it was. That's why I wanted to kind of try to pull it up, but if you find something, interrupt me, let me know.
I was just gonna say that like Battlefield 1 sold 5 million copies on the Xbox One platform alone, and like Battlefield 5, I do agree it was a miss, but I think like Battlefield 1 was a bit of a mega hit. Like I remember there being just like ludicrous amounts of hype behind that. But granted, that was 5 years ago, so I do agree the Battlefield after 5, at least in my own head, Battlefield franchise is less exciting than it was before, I think. And I'm probably not alone in that. But I do think like besides that game, I think they've still sold pretty well. I think maybe why it maybe doesn't seem quite as exciting is Battlefield sits in sort of that like other EA franchise thing, I guess, now that I think about it, of people who aren't us love that shit and they buy it every time it comes out, but like in terms of the hardcore like core gaming audience, I don't think it's quite as much of a huge talking point.
Yeah, and that's where I think Game Pass would come in as super valuable. You get it on Game Pass, you get all these people who have heard of Battlefield, have not really cared about it. Maybe they don't even care about Call of Duty, right? It exposes it to so many people that are like, I'll just give it a shot. I can just download it and try it. And I think that's where the value comes in. And if it did come out day one on Game Pass, I think if they do that, obviously, I don't think it'll be exclusive in any means. I think, pops out on PS5, comes out on Xbox Series X and Game Pass and all that stuff, PC, all at the same time. But then on Game Pass, you get the option to just have the subscription and download it. I think that just makes it more relevant and gives it a fighting chance against Call of Duty that it didn't have before. Because I think people, for example, who are on PlayStation, the amount of consoles that people have sold, that they have on, that they've been selling, I'm just sure, people who have it on PlayStation, they'll have no problem. And if they're a fan of of Battlefield, then they are going to buy it on there. That's great. But if people are unsure, they can at least download it on Xbox Game Pass. And I think on Microsoft's side, they don't have to make it exclusive. I think they have a win in that if someone was on PlayStation, like I just said, and they didn't want to pay for the game, they'd be like, oh, well, maybe I'll just download it on Game Pass and try it out. Maybe I'll try it on my PC, right? Or something like that. So it kind of gets them in the window. I think that works out well. I think that it is good. It could just be my interests, absolutely. But I do think that it is a brand that is disappearing as time goes on. I actually think that about Call of Duty too, but it's selling like the best game every November. But I think in how much I'm hearing about people talking about it, could be my age group, I don't know, but I don't hear people talking about Call of Duty. I hear people talking about Warzone, that title. I hear the word Warzone more than I hear about Call of Duty, and Warzone is free. So I think that eventually you get to the point where yearly releases aren't as popular. Who knows when that happens, but you know, I just wanted to touch on that. It doesn't need to be a huge story today. I just thought it was interesting. If it does happen, that'll I do think it's needed. I think it's important, and honestly, it's the only way I would play the game. So
I would agree. A couple more things too. You mentioned Warzone. I think for Battlefield 6 to be very successful, or to be like a mega hit, I think it needs a free to play mode. Like I think with what we've seen from Fortnite and from Call of Duty and even like Halo coming up, I think they said that it's gonna have a free to play multiplayer, and I think that's super smart. I think that just kind of seems to be the way these types of games are moving in the future, where these sort of more expansive than just deathmatch multiplayer. You know, like Warzone is a whole game into itself, and same with Fortnite Battle Royale. And so I think those types of games definitely do work best when they're free to play. And so if Battlefield 6 really wants that mega hit status, I think if it doesn't even need to be about a battle royale, it's just some sort of big free to play mode with it, I think that'd be good for it. And also one more thing, I did find a source on this rumor, and it was basically like something someone said on a podcast and they're usually familiar with Battlefield, and like a known Battlefield leaker sent like a nodding gif on Twitter in response to that or something. So it's like extremely unsubstantiated, but like I said,
and
I believe the rumor to some degree, to be honest, because it makes sense for EA and Microsoft's relationship. But yeah,
don't get your hopes up, people. But I thought it was interesting because I think I've always found it interesting hearing about like Call of Duty versus Battlefield, and like you know, just the thought of one of those being on Game Pass is, I think, worth talking about. But yeah, let's move on to the next story here that I want to talk about, and that is the game Abandoned. There was a trailer for it. It's a PS5 exclusive, and it's pretty much images or like little clips of the woods of in-engine and a person narrating. It's going to be apparently some single-player horror game, and that's kind of all I know about it. There's going to be a gameplay reveal soon. What'd you send me here?
I sent you a link to the trailer just for you to play, because I feel like it's worth seeing it. Because I want to talk about the trailer itself.
I'll try to pull it up here. Why don't you talk about your thoughts on it? All
right, yeah. So the big scoop on it is that like I would not have cared about this game in the slightest if not for the fact that for some reason everybody thought that it was not everybody. There's a big idea on the internet that this was a secret Kojima game, and I was hearing about that and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I should look into this game. And then obviously it was dispelled. They said like, no, we're not working with him. And after watching this trailer, my main thoughts was just like, how the hell did anybody think that Kojima was attached to this? Like, with all due respect, this game does not look very good. Like, to be totally honest, like, it looks just kind of like a regular...
It's like, here's a scene of some twigs, and here's some more.
I mean, you can't hear it, but like there's narration that kind of sounds like it was done by the intern, to be honest. It's not that great. And then like 5 seconds of gameplay at the very end that are literally probably somewhere in the ballpark of like 15 to 20 FPS.
Yeah, that was
like to the point where I'm
noticeable.
Like, why did you put this in your trailer? Like, just leave that part out because this looks abominable.
Very washed out. I got a lot of Resident Evil 7 vibes in terms of visuals, but that's an older game. And I mean, I don't think that game looked terrible, so I'm not so worried about the visuals, but I just thought, why make this trailer? It didn't, it wasn't an interesting trailer. It was a lot of, I got the vibe of just like, you could be like, oh, here's our new engine for this game. Here's what it can do. And you have a couple of scenes that someone's created, but like, you pretty much have a narrator telling you a little bit about what you're doing. You're by yourself. There's things hunting you. And like, cool, but there was no like monster in the trailer or anything. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll just switch back.
It felt like someone telling me what the game is about with some kind of unimpressive looking engine footage in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But the again, as I said, we would not be talking about this game if it weren't for the fact that people thought that Kojima was attached to it, because like it was a developer that we've never really seen before, which is a dumb reason indie devs exist. And the fact that like he'd done that before with the Phantom Pain and stuff like that. But I said I didn't really like the look of this game, but I still feel so bad for the devs with that. Like, because on one hand, yeah, it kind of messed up the message for their reveal trailer, but also like, if I'm making something, I'm really proud of it, I'm putting it out there, and the only thing people have to say about it is like, dang, that looks a lot like someone else's work, I would be pissed. Like, I would be so upset. If all anybody had to do was compare it to a big shot's name, I don't know. I like Kojima. I'm kind of salty towards Kojima a lot of the time. It kind of upsets me when developers have that sort of superstar status that he has, especially when I don't think it's always super warranted. Like, I think he gets a lot of credit for things that he shouldn't get credit for.
I agree with you there.
Like, people he works with don't get enough credit because he's Kojima. And this is a good example of that. Like, it was just really frustrating to see the story get so out of hand with this, where all people were talking about in regards to this game is Kojima, and all we're probably going to talk about it is Kojima as well because of that. But
I had a couple things to say on
I just
there.
feel
And
bad.
I totally get where you're coming from, and I actually agree with you in a lot of things you're saying about Kojima. Like, I think the industry, I think it needs to have, like, big stars or popular people in the industry,
yeah.
and I think that's good. I totally agree with you though that like a lot of people he works with probably just you don't hear about them, right? You don't know any, but I don't know of a lot of the people he works with, and that's because I haven't looked into it. Sure, I'm sure if I looked into people he's worked with, that I'd be like, oh, that's great. These people that aren't just actors, that these people are great. They've done a great job. I don't know because I haven't put in the effort, and that's too bad that like I have to put in the effort to learn about these people compared to him. But at the same time, I think it's great. I think he we need to have people like that in the industry for it to be, great and be what it is. I wanted to say though that regardless of all this stuff about Kojima overshadowing this team and this game, I still think it's on the team to make a good trailer, and that they have to be in control of what they show and when they show it. And I think that this game is either getting delayed or it is not, or it's coming out and not going to wow people. And I'm saying that off of a couple seconds, but I feel like if you're holding back cool stuff, you got to show it in a trailer. Like, you got to show something to engage you. Like, this trailer, even just watching it again here, I was like, holy cow, I forgot how uninteresting it is, how generic it looks. And that's not talking about graphics. I don't like any visual style, any graphic style. Like I said, if it looked like Resident Evil 7, but it had something interesting to look at, I would be engaged. I liked Resident Evil 7 a lot, but this game just was some scenes of twigs and trees, and I've seen so many scenes of twigs and trees, and it was very white, very gray, very washed out, and I just thought it didn't look very interesting, and I feel like that's on the team to create something that's interesting.
And personally, I think there is value in trailers like this sometimes, where actually, to bring it back to Kojima, like the reveal trailer for Death Stranding is such a good example, where you see it, you don't like they're holding back so much from you, and you can feel it. Like, you don't know what this is, you don't know what it's about, you don't know what the like objective or like genre of game it is, like, is this a stealth game, is this something else? But because it has a big name attached to it, there's that level of interest, and also because it had interesting things to show. But even like I was thinking while you're saying that, like, if I saw this trailer and then his name is escaping me, but the guy who designed Resident Evil 4, like that big hotshot survival horror developer, like, if it had a logo that said like his name on it, and then like attached to Capcom, I'd be like, oh shit, that's super cool, like, it's a new game from him. And then like, I don't really know anything about it, but I'd be excited because he's making a new game, But when it's a studio I've never heard of, without like a franchise that doesn't exist yet, and like nothing really is there to be excited about, which, like you said, like that's just not really a very good trailer.
Yeah, it's just that it looks generic, and I mean that in the sense of it looks like everything else. You have to either say something that's unique or really point out what's special about your project if you want people to hang on to something there. Because yeah, if you're just, I don't know, I haven't seen anything popping up of like, oh, this is doing this, even if it was a new mechanic of, you know, of any kind, or doing this cool thing where there's a creature and it's digging under the ground, and wherever it is, you can kind of see the trees in the ground moving, and it's like, that's kind of cool and scary. I don't know, like, I'm just pulling that out of my ass right now, but
that was a really cool idea for a,
but
like off the cuff mechanic, yeah.
But like, just, oh well, I wonder how that's gonna work. I'm excited to see that gameplay reveal now, right? You could, I don't know, something just to hold on to, other than it's almost photos. It's not, but it's almost just photos of trees and grass and a woods environment. So I really hope the team does good, and I hope that the gameplay trailer, you know, blows the socks off people, and people go, oh, this is exciting.
I hope
I'm
this is just a bad trailer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's a bad trailer for a great game.
Yeah, totally. And maybe that the fact that people were talking about it because of Kojima will make people check out the gameplay trailer, and then maybe the gameplay trailer just wows people. That would be awesome, and I hope that works out for them. Do you have anything more to say on that?
Not really, except that we should talk about the second half of the story.
Yes. So let's move right into the possibility, and I personally think likelihood of Kojima making a deal with Xbox, that, you know, possibly them publishing the next game by Kojima. I think that it's likely. I think it's possible. I think that I think there's a reason Kojima never, you know, was bought by PlayStation. I think he likes working with whoever he wants to work with, and so I think it's maybe likely is too positive on it, but I do think it's definitely possible, and I think that it's definitely possible that he could work with whoever the heck he wants to work with, especially at this point. What he's making though is what I'd be very excited to find out, and whether it's going to be exclusive for a period of time is also something I want to find out. And I'd be curious to discover. Zig, do you have any thoughts on if this was true of Kojima working with Xbox on a new game?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be like super surprised. I guess like he does have a relationship with Sony, but at the end of the day, like a check is a check. Like
exactly.
I heard some people in regard to this saying like, no, like he's so loyal to Sony, he would never or something like that. I'm like, no, he's not. Like he just wants to make like, or that sounds reductive. He wants to make great games, but like at the end of the day, it's there to sell, and he's not gonna say no to a massive exclusivity check just because he likes PlayStation or something, you know? And yeah, I definitely think it's a possibility. Do I believe it? I mean, maybe. It's kind of, I don't think I've seen enough evidence for it yet. It's just kind of like hearsay. Like hearsay from people who I trust on the internet, like who are usually right about things. But I do think I need to see more. Also, the fact that there was what's the Luden? There's a Luden statue on Phil Spencer's shelf at one point in the live stream. But yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, regardless of where it is, I am excited to see what he does next, especially given the fact that there is like a lot pointing to the fact that it's probably going to be a horror game.
I was going to ask you, do you believe that?
Yeah. I definitely think it'll be a horror game. I think that's what he's been wanting to do for a long time. I think the fact that we've heard so many things about him working with like Junji Ito with stuff, who is a, you know, very, very prominent and talented horror manga author, and I think it'll be in that space. Do I think he's making a Silent Hill game? No. I don't. No, I don't either. I don't think he wants to. But I'm excited for whatever it is, regardless. And if it's on Xbox, if it's on PlayStation, I don't like that. That doesn't really change the fact that I think it'll still just be a really cool game.
Can I tell you what I think it'll be like?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, also what I kind of want, and I haven't thought through a ton, but man, I always love thinking about, you know, if a game was made, what I would want. And I was thinking of Death Stranding, game I haven't played, wasn't interested in whatsoever. Felt like it was a little too slow and for me. And but they had that kind of system where everyone could kind of build into the world together, and you have this almost you have nothing, very connected kind of thing. I think that the way he would make a horror game would be very. You could have the world to where it's scary, but it's not scripted, where it's influenced by other players playing the game. And whether I am activating a lamp or I am doing something makes fog go and move in a certain way. And, I don't know how it would work, but, something like that where everything other people are doing, maybe there's a pool of, you're having your pool of like 20 hundreds of people or whatever, all involved in each other's world. You're connected online, you're doing stuff in your game, and that is inflicting scares on other people in certain ways, or making just a board move, a board that's laying on the ground, or a knife fly out of a cutting block, right? You could have all kinds of cool stuff happen, and I don't think horror games have done that or taken advantage of that kind of stuff in ever, and I really think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a very good chance that this game will have some sort of weird player connection thing, because Kojima loves that shit. Like with Metal Gear Solid 5 had the like FOB system that I actually really liked, and yeah, Death Stranding, that was the entire game. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something similar to that, like some sort of non-traditional player interaction in the game, whatever that means, whether that's that or I don't even know what to envision like for what that would look like in a horror game, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good bet.
Yeah. So should we talk about the next thing, or should we continue in our favorite games?
I want to talk about it.
You want to talk about it?
If we go over time, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, let's go right into the next story. I just skimmed through Jason Schreier's article this morning. It came out talking about Sony and kind of its almost doubling down on the significant IP that can really sell consoles versus smaller teams making games that might be more of a risk to, it might be a hit, might not be. He talks a ton in the article. You should just go read it. But just kind of skimming through it, looks like the smaller team, what's it called here? I want to find it. Visual Arts Service Group, working for Sony, that they wanted to kind of make a remake for the original Uncharted, and I guess it wasn't approved. So then they decided, because of how much it would cost to make, and then they were going to work on a Last of Us 1 remake for PS5, and then as they worked on that, essentially it became Naughty Dog's project, and then this group went from kind of starting wanting to make this game to now being kind of the support for it again. And I guess they've supported tons of other games, and just kind of their feeling behind it is very much like, well, this sucks. We wanted to make our own game. We wanted to have our studio become one of these big names, but Sony just wanted to push it underneath Naughty Dog again and do that. So that's kind of like hard to, it sucks to hear that like you have to be part of one of these major companies, or else you're just not going to be heard of and you're not going to be supported in the industry. And I just find that's tough to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying, because we were talking about this a little bit before the show, like the thing that jumps out to me with this, because I read most of the article, I think, but the thing that jumps out to me is just how stark of a contrast this is to Sony's old approach to making games in like the PS3 era, where it was, and like early PS4 era too, where it was a lot of just weird shit. Like that was kind of the thing, is they just made weird stuff. They had all the weird like ads on TV, and also just like the fact that games like Gravity Rush got made, which it sounds like in this article they're doing some not great things to those studios. Like they made Gravity Rush and one other Japanese studio. Like I think there's a quote in here that basically one of those developers was saying that Sony doesn't want to invest in games that will only be popular in Japan anymore, because every game from them needs to be a $1 billion mega hit now, which is so just like, yeah, it's so hard to hear. It's sad to see a company that was so focused on, like, they had all these big indie initiatives, and it was focused on things like Dreams getting made that are just so weird and experimental, but awesome to see, you know? And it's unfortunate to see them just lean into only like the Spider-Mans and the God of Wars that they know will be mega hits. And yeah, and the other side of this too, I want to talk about what's kind of on a totally different note than what I was just saying, but like, there's a Last of Us remake coming out. Like, I never heard of this before, and
I never asked for this.
yeah, me neither. Like, I do not think that game needs to be remade. Like, Uncharted needs to be remade way more than The Last of Us does. Like, I played that last year, and when I was playing that, I had my criticisms of it, but none of my criticism was, oh, this game feels dated. Like, it feels really modern. It looks, honestly, pretty modern. It looks better than a lot of late gen like PS4 games looked. But yeah, just unfortunate to see Sony doing this when on the other side of things there is Microsoft, you know, with Game Pass supporting these smaller devs, you know, making games that are more unique and experimental, I suppose. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a huge contrast to Xbox's supposedly, you know, hands-off approach to just bring in tons of teams, pop out all these different games, just bring us content. You could be this big adventure, it could be a smaller game, you could have something from like Psychonauts 2 to Halo Infinite, right? And and that's not to knock down Psychonauts 2, but just, you know, in terms of just how many people have heard of it versus and want to play it versus, you know, there's a difference there. And and I think that the fact that you can have this variety is what makes Game Pass so valuable. I think if you did just have these 40 to 70 hour major story games on Game Pass, it would not be what it is, right? You need all those other smaller teams. You need all those different types of games that really make you think or just wow you in not doing what you expect to really make it have personality for the service.
Like, the thing I had in my head, like, just to kind of tie a bow in my thoughts, is Sony, the way Sony has been acting right now gives me the same vibes as the way Microsoft was acting at the beginning of the Xbox One generation. And I don't think they've been making nearly as many missteps. Like, that's not to say that they're just like bungling everything, because they're not. They're doing quite well. But one of the things that Microsoft had at the beginning of last gen was that, yeah, they just felt like a company. Like, they felt like a very, very corporate money-making company who had a machine that was there to make money. And they had the issue of having a horrible launch and no good games, and Sony has had the opposite. They've had a great console with great games, but just the general tone from them has been so off-putting to me. We're talking about for the show where Sony doesn't have a face to its company at the moment. Like, when you think Sony, there's nobody that I really think of. Yeah, where they don't have their Doug Bowser or their even like Shigeru Miyamoto that Nintendo has, or their Phil Spencer. And I think that there's a lot of value to that in making you just have more of a connection to that console. But yeah, it's just makes me sad to read this article.
Totally. All right, well, let's move into a more positive note, which is our top favorite games, our top favorite 50 games of all time. We are on not week 39, but we're on our game number 39. I guess I could go first on this one because you were just talking a bit.
Yeah.
My game for this week, you'll appreciate, is Katana Zero.
Ooh.
It's on the list. This is a game that if you've been watching Screen Peeking since the beginning, you would have definitely seen Ziggy suggest this game. It was one of our Game Pass games back when we would both play a game suggested by the other person. That was kind of a thing we were trying at the beginning. And so Ziggy suggested this game to me, and man, I just love it. I fell in love with it. I can't wait. I am excited to play it a second time. And see like what else there is to do, or like what other story elements there are, because I got an ending and I got a couple endings, and I think there's at least one more, right? Is there more than two? Because I know you like I cut it short. I cut it short and then I continued, and then I know at least there's other dialogue I could definitely have by interrupting people. And I guess I've talked about this game a lot on a previous episode, but I want to definitely touch on this game. Had the best blend. I talked about it earlier. It had the best blend of visuals, music, combat and like intense combat at times where you're just trying to be perfect in the best way possible, and yet every time you fail, you're right back in it trying again. And there wasn't too much dialogue, wasn't too much story. Everything that was happening, when there was stuff being talked about, it was after a guy got shot in the face or something interesting happened on screen and you're going, whoa, what's going on there? Or why is there a glitch flickering? Or what is happening in this world? I'm going to read because I want to know what's happening on my screen. And it wasn't just the same looping 1 second and in the background, and then you're just reading text, like we were talking about with Narita Boy. Yeah, I just like the levels. Even sometimes I'd finish a level and I'd do a good job, but I'd want to like, I'd be thinking, man, I wish I did that a little bit more smooth, because you get to rewatch how you did it after in real time, because you can slow down time and do little things. And I just remember thinking that the game was just the coolest. I think this game is so cool. It just makes you feel like a badass, and I feel like it just hit all those notes for me. It's just not higher on this list because honestly, let me just see what I have here. I have a lot of nostalgia for a lot of these other games, and I want to go back and play them more often than this one. I still
and for lists like this, like our hyper biased personal favorite 50 games, like nostalgia is definitely a big factor in that.
Yeah, but I also I just want to say quick still that a game like this needs your full attention, and it's not a game that you can play on the side while watching a video or doing something. Whereas I personally just really like, I think a lot of these other games I can do that, and I do prefer to kind of absorb content, see what other people are doing, watch other videos and stuff on one monitor while I'm playing a game on the other one. That doesn't mean I don't like stuff like Katana Zero at all. That's why it's in my top 50. But it is that is something that I take into factor in when I think about it.
Also, so have you heard anything about the DLC, like the free DLC for this game?
No.
So yeah, basically so they announced that they're working on a free DLC, like I think when the game launched. But just like a few weeks ago, I think, the 26th of March, according to this article from Nintendo Life, basically it has gotten huge. Like what was originally planned to be just a small like level, it says it's now like 6 times the original planned size. The developer is saying it's more like a Katana 1.5. Which is cool, because if you have played the game, you'll know it leaves at the end. It really leaves you wanting more in terms of story. It ends at a pretty big cliffhanger. So I'm super excited for the sequel, but this DLC looks like it's going to be really substantial. So
almost like a Hollow Knight Silk Song sort of story, where like they're working on a DLC and making something major out of it.
I think they just had so many ideas for it that like they just couldn't stop, which hopefully won't turn into feature bloat and it getting delayed endlessly, but I don't think it will. This is really good dev.
They have no reason. They've not given me a reason to be worried.
Not at all. I don't expect to see it soon, but like one of those things, it's always in the back of my mind, and eventually it's going to come out and I'm going to be super happy.
As soon as it drops, we're playing it.
Yeah, seriously. So my 39 is Lovely Planet, and I'm putting both Lovely Planet 1 and Lovely Planet 2 on here because they're very, very similar games. Do you know what the series is at all?
Not at all.
All right, so my pitch on it is that it is a boomer shooter, kind of like, Doom or Quake or something, except take out all the like metal, take out all the edgy visuals, and instead have like a game with the same composer as Pikuniku, Callum Bowen, or Bowen as his like more solo music is under, which is just like super cutesy, like fun looking game, but it's also just like hard as balls, like just brutally difficult, brutally fast.
Yeah, that's cute.
But just insanely fun, and it's such a good mix of that where I don't know, it never feels like ironic or anything. I guess it never feels like a parody. It feels genuine, but it's also, I don't know, it just nails it so perfectly. The look mixed with the feel of it, of getting you pumped up, getting you like shaking from adrenaline while playing it, but not at all having that like, blood pumping music or anything. Right. The music in this game I also want to talk about because it genuinely gives me the same feeling that a lot of Doom music does, but without being metal or anything like that. Like it is I don't know. It's just like fast, and I don't know. It's good. I don't really know how to explain why I like this game.
That's okay.
But I don't know. It's a game that I just have very strong emotion about for no real reason. I think, other than the fact that it's just a really really tightly designed game that I think everyone should play. I think it's really approachable in terms of this type of game. And it has also that sort of thing that what you're just talking about with Katana Zero, where it's super hard. It kind of demands perfection from you at times, but you press R and you're right back at the beginning. Like no load times or anything. Like you mess up, you go. You mess up, you go. Each level takes maybe 10 seconds to complete, but it's 10 really, really intense seconds, then it's on to the next, and then 10 really intense seconds and on to the next. It's I really like the format of it.
What's it called again?
Yeah. Lovely Planet. There's also a weird spin-off Lovely Planet that is like I think it's called like Super Lovely Planet or something, that is like Doom where you can't look up and down, and it's not very good. Don't play that. I'm intentionally leaving that one out.
Awesome. I realize again we haven't decided on our game club game for this week, so let's just figure that out, and I'll just cut this little middle in. So just naturally moving right into this, we didn't have to discuss this beforehand. Our next game club game is going to be Supraland. So yeah, that's if you want to play it along this week, we'll be talking about it next week and have kind of our impressions on it. I'm hoping to get more than half an hour this time to play. Oh, Taylor just got home. Sorry guys, gotta go. Bye.
Oh, nice.
Just
see it.
Mom's home. Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna play that. And with that, we're gonna bring the show to an end, though. Actually, not just because Taylor got here. Yeah, if you want to check us out, you can follow us in the links below. Please let us know in the comments if you have any opinions on how we can do better, and we really appreciate you all. Please leave a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. See ya.
See ya. Keep peeking that screen.